The Indiana Pacers have waived James Wiseman. They've also brought in Mac McClung to help with their guard depth. What do these injuries mean for the Pacers long-term, and how can Mac McClung help this team? And with James Wiseman being waived, what does this mean for the center rotation this year and moving forward? We're talking about all of that today on Setting the Pace. Let's get to it.
This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Halliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! It's good! Nesmith again, three, got it! He's a flamethrower!
Siakam, a three. Siakam hits the three! Pacers have the lead! Nembhard looked at a three. He's going to take a long three. Bang!
The pep in the step is back.
Mathurin fires away, pots ahead! Mathurin madness!
This is how legacies are built.
Nembhard's got to put it up. Step back, his three-pointer. Nembhard knocks the three down!
Andrew Nembhard was so good.
Top in, corner three, and rattles in! Pacers down three. Halliburton's got the ball. Halliburton rises high! You have got to be kidding me. Yeah! That's how we feel.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden. Joining me on the show is not Michael J. Facci. He is still on vacation. Found out today he will not be back till Thursday's episode, so be on the lookout for that. But we've got a man with divine providence in his bio. It is Brett Evans. Brett, what is up, my man? How you doing?
Alex, always good to be with you, man. I think the last time I was on with you, I was in an amusement park. So definitely a lot more stable audio this time. And man, what a wild start to the season. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, so we got some breaking news today. James Wiseman, Indiana Pacers center, was waived, and he will get that $1 million of that contract guaranteed, but the other 1.7 will not go against the Pacers book. So he is no longer on this team, and it's because they needed some guard depth. And they went out, they looked for the guard depth throughout the training camp. They brought in three guys. All three guys ended up not coming onto the roster: Monty Morris, Cameron Payne, and DeLon Wright. But instead, they're dipping a little bit deeper now. They're going to the G League, and they're signing Mac McClung, former three-time NBA Slam Dunk champion and former G League MVP. I don't know. It doesn't really excite me, Brett, but I'm trying to get excited.
Yeah, I think you could look at this in two ways. In my opinion, on a practical basis, this seems like a Band-Aid, a stopgap. Now, the one thing that's interesting to me is it was a multi-year contract, I heard, and I would be curious to know the details on that. I don't know if you know the details on that yet and how that's structured. Have you heard anything on that before I continue?
All I've heard is that it's a multi-year deal. It's non-guaranteed.
Yeah. Okay. So non-guaranteed, multi-year. Okay. That might just be kind of like a back end, make the math work type of thing. But I found that interesting. It wasn't like a 10-day or something like that. But I'll say this on the practical basis, it seems like a stopgap. It seems like a Band-Aid for people who are out here like, oh, he's the next fill in the blank. He's probably not. But on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, I will say this for the sake of excitement, if anyone wants to get excited about this, my point of view on this is if there's a guy out there that fits the culture of what Indiana builds, that would be Mac McClung. Like he's an effort guy, 6'2", crazy athlete, always gets good effort on the floor. I think in many ways, like his situation in the NBA has been maybe a little bit of misfortune based on where he's been and what he's done. But at the end of the day, he's still a G Leaguer, right? So I think it's an interesting move for that reason. Like he's a guy that, if he could be a late bloomer, and I don't want you to overreact to this because I don't mean he's TJ McConnell, but he could be like a TJ McConnell kind of guy. And you put him in the right system and in the right culture, and he could show some value. So, once again, in terms of long term, this could be a lottery ticket for the Pacers, and it could have some upside because he's certainly a great athlete. He's not, he's a greater athlete than McConnell is, right? So there is some upside there, but at the end of the day, it's about getting the depth that we need for the short term. And then, who knows? See what you got.
Okay, so a couple of things that I thought of when I first heard this news. It was, oh boy, does this mean that the injuries to Andrew Nembhard and Benn Mathurin are a little bit more of a big deal than what we thought maybe going into it, right? Because now you're just like, okay, who are we going to get, right? Like at this point, you only have 3 playable guards if you don't include Aaron Nesmith in that guard rotation, and 2 of those guys are two-way players in Quentin Jackson and Ray J. Dennis. And so I think when they've seen the success those 2 players have had with the Pacers while also being mostly G League level players, maybe they're thinking, maybe there's something there with Mac McClung kind of being on that same level. So just a couple different things there. But I think when you talk about that culture, he just kind of embodies what the Pacers are all about, which is chip on your shoulder, never really landed anywhere. This is an opportunity. Can he make the most of it? I think he's going to be incredibly humbled and grateful for this opportunity. Seems like a very good culture fit for this group as well. And we know he's a bucket. Like he can get shots off, like even at 6'2", like go back to his college tape. Like that's pretty much what Chris Beard said. Get out of the way, give Mac McClung the ball. And like I was watching some breakdown earlier today. It was like 7 years ago, but he's hitting like a fadeaway jumper over Jericho Sims, who's a backup center for the Bucks. It's like, this is kind of crazy how everything just kind of plays together. But I think that there's something there with what they like about his potential, the way he might approach this opportunity versus going after the veteran guard that they kind of did during the training camp, part of this, because this is a young guy that can get up and down the court and he's a healthy body and he doesn't know the system that well, but like who does know the system that well at this point? And so it's just like,
what system?
Yeah,
it's random, right? Even without Halliburton, it's random, right?
It's like give Siakam the ball and get out of the way. But I know you've been, I think you've been kind of like iffy on Ray J. Dennis, right? As a player, I think he's got a little bit of Ray J tendencies where he might be more of a first undersized guard versus, hey, let me see if I can get these guys set up. But I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm not like overly excited, but like I'm intrigued a little bit just because I like stories like this.
Well, and look, the Pacers, and it's hard for me to compare to other franchises, but because I know the Pacers intimately well, but like the Pacers have had some recent success with G League guys. And like I know we'll get to the center talk in a minute, but like look at Tony Bradley. I mean, Tony Bradley was, same situation for us last year. This time toward the end of the year as we're approaching the playoffs, where we needed some center depth, halfway through the season and didn't get much play time. And then, I mean, you could argue Tony Bradley was one of the, unsung heroes of that playoff run. He wasn't spectacular by any means, but he made some timely plays and timely moments in all of the playoffs last year. You mentioned Quentin Jackson. I think his development was amazing. He looked to be a guy that you might be able to depend on as your third guy and maybe even develop into a potential second guy if needed. And of course, his injury derailed him. And then, I'm not the biggest Ray J fan because he's kind of tragic Bronson to me sometimes. Defensively, he's certainly a liability, but like he's a bucket. Like I always, it's funny because Ray J kind of reminds me a little bit of Mathurin in that way. Like where, maybe not this year's Mathurin until he got hurt. Mathurin was looking incredible on both sides of the court. And even just distributing the ball in a great way. Just his injury was just a gut punch more than maybe even some of the others right now, to be honest. But Ray J has some of those Mathurin tendencies. But Mac, he fits that model, right? That mold of like you said, scrappy. He's a culture fit, I think, and also not that people care from an X's and O's standpoint, but like it's a brilliant marketing move by the Pacers front office too. Even if he only plays for a little bit. To get Mac McClung. Imagine the people are going to go out and get McClung jerseys just because of how cool that is. And then you got another high flyer on the team. You got Obi and Furphy once they were both injured too. But like, we've got some high flyers that during a tough season might it's a good move to like keep the interest high on the Pacers organization right now.
Don't leave out Quentin Jackson on those high flyers either now.
Hey, Quentin Jackson. Exactly. He's exactly right, man. We have a lot of, Isaiah Jackson you could put as a once he comes back fully healthy, he's in that multi. We got a lot of high flyer athletes on the team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of the most fun teams in terms of like what they could do dunk wise out in transition. Like maybe we could just have all 4 Pacers be in the dunk contest this year and see who wins it. That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, we could be like the Blake and DeAndre Clippers back in the day.
That's not that far back in the day, but it is actually back in the day when you think about it. From where
it's back in the day now, Alex. Time moves fast.
It does. It's like I remember that just like it was yesterday. That's kind of a bad thing. But I want to talk more about the James Wiseman side of things because obviously Tony Bradley was the guy that was on a non-guaranteed contract that could have easily cut him, not had to put that $1 million on the books, but they decided, you know what, James Wiseman, he's going to be the guy that actually gets cut out of all 4 of these centers. And you probably understand why you don't do it for Jackson and Huff because their money is guaranteed. But the fact that Bradley has played himself into a rotation spot that they couldn't cut him and they have to waste that $1 million on James Wiseman, like, in hindsight, he played 25 minutes for the Pacers in 2 seasons. I know it wasn't 2 seasons technically, but was on the roster to start training camp both years and played 2 games, 25 minutes. And I think he had a total of 10 points for the Pacers in that time. So not really an opportunity, in my opinion, for James Wiseman to prove himself on the court and get to play with some of those upper echelon players. Like he never really got to play with TJ or Tyrese or anybody like that. But it's just the situation the Pacers are in. I know they like him, that he's a good guy, and they brought him in, pretty much once Miles left. They brought him in. They said, we want to give him a chance. But he just doesn't seem to fit this system.
Yeah, and look, we know that they liked him because, remember, even when he wasn't on our roster, he was still training and rehabbing within our facility. So there was definitely a belief in him. And who knows, maybe there's a world where we get him back. It'd be crazy, but it's not unheard of, right? But it is an unfortunate thing for a guy who was, so highly sought after. What was he number? It was a top draft pick and
second overall pick.
And he's got the talent, he's got the chops, but just injuries and lack of development and kind of jumping around the league in the early part of his career. It's just been an unfortunate situation for him. At the end of the day, Bradley's outplayed him. And frankly, Bradley's outplayed all of the centers, including Jackson and Huff at this point. And I have some comments on that I could bring up in a minute. But and when you have a need, he just unfortunately becomes expendable. You can almost look at stats early in this season, especially with the makeup of this roster, and even results. Almost like you can almost kind of throw it out the window right now. Everything has a big fat asterisk by it. But like, the one early indicator that Kaylin Cooper even put this out is she mentioned that when Wiseman was on the floor for 20 possessions, our points per possession was like 0.474, I believe. And when he was off the floor, it was just south of 1.2. That's a major delta. And I think the misfortune with Wiseman is he's a guy that would have absolutely benefited from playing with Hali. Like, he's a Hali guy. He's a get to the rim, above the rim kind of player, pick and roll kind of guy. And, it's just tough because Hallie's not here. Nembhard goes out. It's just, I think it's been like an unfortunate timing thing for him, injury wise, personnel wise, system wise. And it's sad to see, because I think a lot of people had high hopes for him, but that's just the reality of the NBA.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I feel the same sentiments you do about not being able to play with Halliburton or even TJ McConnell, because it's like, just somebody that can set you up. And it's like, I kind of came into this season wondering what exactly the non-guaranteed for Tony Bradley meant. When we talked with Chad Buchanan, we talked with Ted Wu, they were very adamant, like, it's a non-guaranteed deal. He's battling at training camp for a spot. And I'm just like, did you guys not just see what Rick Carlisle did in the NBA Finals? Like, he relied on Tony Bradley. And I felt like, to me personally, like, that was always an indication of, like, Rick's view and the coaching staff's view of Tony Bradley is probably a lot higher than the fan bases and maybe even the front office. Understand that ceiling is very low in terms of what potential he can give you, but you know what you're going to get every single night. It's that level of consistency that the other 3 centers, to me, have not provided this season so far and preseason. You got Jay Huff out here huffing and puffing down the court, trying to catch his breath, not really sure what to do. The guy's not really hitting threes like he's supposed to be doing. We haven't seen one reverse dunk. Like, that's the only thing.
Backwards dunk.
Yeah, like show me something. And then Isaiah Jackson, like the thing I was thinking about today with Isaiah Jackson, which is so funny, is I always think of specific plays that have stood out to me throughout his career.
And they're all fouls,
Well,
all moving screens.
there's no way that can be one specific because he does that about that 4 times every game. The specifics are like the one I always bring up about his defense on Tatum in the Eastern Conference Finals when he switched and guarded him, blocked a shot. The other one I think about, me and Facci talk about a lot. They were playing the Nuggets. I think it was Mathurin's rookie year, so his second season. He hit like this fadeaway jumper from like 18 feet, and we're like, whoa, if he can add that to his game, like that'd be great.
Right.
And then you think about the behind the back pass that he had to Mathurin.
Yeah.
In the game against the Grizzlies, it's like you see a flash here, a flash there, but it's like, how often do you actually like see that all come together? There's not a lot of compilations here of him doing that. It's just like a random time here and a random time there. So it's not like it's like, oh, this is something that he can solidify and build off of. It's just like, oh, it's very rare that this happened, and he doesn't really do anything else to me that stands out besides not a bad screener, just moves way too quick once he sets it and then gets himself in bad positions, and then he leaves his feet sometimes when he doesn't need to contest a shot. So it's been a really rough center rotation so far. That's why I've just been like hammering the start Tony Bradley train, because it's just like when you're looking at who else is out there, it's just like you're going to get that level of consistency from him you're not going to get anywhere else, even if his ceiling is lower than the other two.
Yeah, especially right now, it's not just consistency, it's continuity, right? So even though he wasn't with us the entire season last year, he made a deep playoff run with us, and he knows the system. He knows what to expect. I commented to you, I think it might have been one of the last preseason games or one of the first, I think it was one of the last preseason games. He looks leaner and more in shape to me this year. He looks like he's getting up and down the court faster than he did last year. And every Pacer that comes to the Pacers, even Siakam. I remember when Siakam came, he said it was an adjustment for him for a few weeks to the pace of play that the Pacers play. That's why, I think when we talk about the center position, I have a few opinions on it. Number one, I think everything that we talk about now at the center position, it's going to be different in a few weeks. Just because, for example, Huff right now, he's learning the system. He's obviously not got a full roster to play with. His conditioning is obviously not up to par. But that honestly, that's what happens when I remember. Was it Bruce Brown even said the same? Like, it's just a different kind of style of play. But I fully expect Huff to kind of get acclimated. It's a new city, new system, new players. I think he's going to come along. I think Ajax comes along too. I don't think Ajax is a starting center, right? We don't have a starting center. Let's just be honest. We just don't have one. But like Ajax is one of those guys. He's not a Mitchell Robinson type of guy, but I think he's a Mitchell Robinson type of role guy where you bring him off the bench. There might be certain teams you want to play him at stardom, maybe a too big type of rotation if you need to do that. But he's that high effort, low minute, high effort, go out and do, the dirty work kind of thing. I think he's always going to be that kind of guy. And yeah, if he could develop an outside shot, that might change the equation. But I think ultimately, if we don't trade for a center, mid-season or something like that, which I think is it's possible, right? When you think about, where we at by then, from a record standpoint, what's the future look like? Is someone like a Kessler on the table later in the year? You never know. Never thought Luka was going to be available, right? That could change the equation on everything. But I'm not comparing Kessler to Luka, by the way. But my point is if Luka, I'm just saying, if Luka got traded, why not Kessler is what I'm getting at. Yeah, so
I just never thought I would hear a sentence where we heard a comparison between Luka and Kessler, even if it was just a trade comparison. It just made me laugh.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So my point is, let's just assume a trade doesn't happen or some sort of random, free agent acquisition. My prediction is that Huff works his way into the starting lineup, and I'll tell you why. Once he gets his groove, once he understands, his conditioning gets up and he understands his role in the system, which is completely different than what Memphis' system was. I mean, this is not even close, right? Memphis played fast, but it's a completely different system. is I think he's going to ultimately become our starter for one big reason is he plays the role that Miles played as closely as Miles played it. Yeah, he's not hitting his outside shot, his outside threes as much, but Bradley's not a 3-point shooter. Ijack's not a 3-point shooter. He at least gives you that stretch 5 option. And, the stats show historically that he's a good defender in the block in terms of, blocking shots, etc. So I think he'll get there. I think it's just kind of new team vibes and he's trying to get acclimated. And it's been a weird season with all the injuries. I think you'll start to see him move up the depth chart a little bit sooner than later. That's my prediction. And then Ijax and Bradley will be that, those rotational centers and we'll see what happens. But for the time being, going full circle, I agree. Bradley's been the best center on the court.
Do you think Bradley should start at this point in time with where they're at right now?
I think Carlisle, look at what he did. The first 3 games, he started a new center every single game.
Yeah.
And I think he's in that kind of alchemy mode right now where by necessity, because he doesn't have the players, and he's trying to make chicken salad out of chicken crap. We'll just put it that way. And so I think he's just trying to figure things out. There was a moment there where Wiseman, Bradley, and either Huff or Jackson were on the court together. It's just I think right now it's just such a weird, figure out what works, figure out what combos. So I can see Carlisle even through mid-season, even though he doesn't have a proclivity to do this typically when he has his full roster, I can see him starting different people situationally, right? Depending on the matchup, depending on who we go up against. You go up against a big center type of team, like Minnesota, like we saw with Gobert and all them. Maybe that's a good Bradley game. And then if you have small ball crew, put Jax out there because he can guard a 4 as well. So I think we could see a lot of situational matchups and rosters this year.
No,
Lineups,
yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, and I think Rick's going to do that. I just wonder about trying to find some continuity with somebody in the starting 5, just so you kind of get used to who's out there on the floor with you. I was a little bit surprised they didn't start Ray J against Minnesota just because of how much better I felt like the offense looked against Memphis when he came into the game versus when you had no ball handler out there. So that is just something to keep in mind. And I wanted to go back to what you were talking about with J Huff. I don't want to just ignore what you said there because it's really fascinating to me because you think about it from the way you brought it up, and I think that's a good way to view it and a good lens to look through. Same reason I was saying, poor Wiseman never got really a chance to play with any of these guys. Imagine the continuity, if it was Obi Toppin, J Huff, Jarris Walker, Ben Shepherd, T.J. McConnell, if that was your backup 5, a unit, how would that look? How much chemistry would have developed with TJ and J Huff potentially in that group? And so maybe you could say, well, that's just unfortunate for J Huff. And I can see that point of view, and I think that that's something to maybe keep in the back of your mind is once his roster gets fully healthy, could he kind of figure out how to mesh with that group specifically and then maybe play his way into a starting role and take it over from Isaiah? But I also just look at it from the standpoint of this is a guy that was a 3rd-string center on the Memphis Grizzlies. And instead of keeping him on that contract that was a minimum contract, they traded him for 2 seconds and went out and got Jock Landau. And I'm not saying Jock Landau looked great in his moments against the Pacers on that Grizzlies team, but he did look better than any of the centers the Pacers had. So I'm just kind of wondering, if they were that out on him and he was already a 3rd-string center and he's getting paid that less of an amount of money, does he really fit the Miles Turner mold, or is it just that's the closest thing we have? Because I know a lot of people are really excited about it, but the one thing real quick before you respond, the thing that I've noticed too is he looks so much thinner in terms of his upper body strength compared to Isaiah and Tony Bradley and even to Miles. Mm-hmm. I mean, he does not have this super muscular frame that I feel like he kind of gets pushed around a little bit more than I would like. Can still block shots and alter shots around the rim, but I don't know. There's something there that I'm just not necessarily seeing from my perspective right now with him that gives me excitement for him even moving forward this season.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. There's nothing that's excited me about him so far. I mean, he did hit a couple threes, I think, maybe 1 3. I will say this. Let me back up. When I say that he's the closest thing to Miles, there's still a massive gap between him and Miles.
Yeah.
Like I think the heel turn that Miles took, and like Miles is also having a pretty tough start to his career in Milwaukee, albeit very young. And everyone loves to pile on, and the Milwaukee fans and the Indy fans going back and forth, and that's hilarious. But Miles' heel turn needs to be studied. By the way, that's a different topic for a different time. But what I mean by that is I don't think he's nearly the caliber of player that Miles. Two things can be true at the same time. Miles, probably wasn't worth the contract he was looking for. It sounded like he wanted out anyways. It's a weird situation. So I think it was time for him to go, especially with all the other guys that we want to sign that are younger and have more upside. And but at the same time, losing him is a big loss as well. It's not just losing Hali; it's losing both of those guys has been a major dip. And I just think that Huff. I think anytime that you have a threat from the outside at the 5 position in this style of offense that Indiana plays, it makes a difference, right? I know we haven't seen that production from him yet, and defensively he gets mixed up a lot, and he's kind of fumbling and bumbling on the offensive side. I think that there's an acclimation period there. Certainly not as physically gifted as a guy needs to be. He was a third string center. I agree with that. He's not. I don't think there's our future guy. I think a lot of people thought, oh, this is just an easy, rip and replace of Miles. It's not. But what I'm saying is ultimately when he's on the floor, it does pull the 5 out of the lane, and our offense is very dependent upon getting at least one touch in the lane to make the offense flow. You saw in a lot of possessions with Wiseman, he didn't play much, but with Wiseman, definitely with Jackson and Bradley's the same way. They kind of be parked around that paint area, and it kind of stops the flow of the offense in some ways. They go more perimeter passing as opposed to penetrating the paint, and I just think that's a key thing. Even Thomas Bryant was able to shoot 3, and he did the same thing on the second unit. I do like your thought about just ideally. I'm thinking about next season. Huff could be one of those bench centers for us that plays with that second unit. That could be lethal if we can find a number 1 guy to play with Hali and the rest of that team. But that's just my thought. I think it's too early to call right now. I think this is just a weird time of year anyways, and then you add all the injuries. It's really hard to assess what we're seeing here, apart from the fact that this Pacers team has faced 3 really good teams. Obviously Memphis not as good as the other 2, and they've played all of them to the end of the fourth quarter, and in the case of OKC to a double overtime, which I'm very, very proud of them being undermanned. But that's really the only thing I can really definitively, objectively comment on right now until time moves forward.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, losing Benn Mathurin might be the biggest of the injuries we've had so far, and it's just you take him out of that OKC game, what happens? They fall apart offensively. He comes out of the game against Memphis, it was a 3-point game, they fall apart offensively, and then all of a sudden in Minnesota, he's not playing, so now Pascal has to be a warrior, as Rick Carlisle said, and put on a cape and carry the load. I mean, your second leading scorer is Aaron Nesmith, who scored 18 points on 17 shots. It's not great efficiency. And then Tony Bradley and Ray J are your 2 next scorers with 12 off the bench. It's this is where we're at this early in the season. And so if you have any overreactions, it's a little bit over the top. I mean, it's way too early.
But positive or negative, honestly.
Yes.
Anything you see right now is just what do we – Siakam had to go back to his days in Toronto before his last couple of years in Toronto before the trade. Nesmith, he looks incredible. He just needs to hit his free throws, which has been a problem for him since he's been here. But he's been incredible. I mean, Nesmith looks a little cold to start. I thought Nembhard before he got injured, and that's a very small sample size. And granted, I know that OKC is a great defensive team, but it still didn't have J-Dub or Caruso out there. But he looked iffy to me at the 1, but we know what he can do. But it's just a different role for him. I think he's best suited to play 2. He's fallen into that role really, really well. Mm-hmm. Guys like Taylen Peter have been shown flashes. He kind of reminds me of the second coming of what we have with Ben Shepherd and a 3-and-D guy. We don't know what Cam Jones. What are we going to get from Cam Jones? Like, there's so many like what ifs right now. That once we get, well, yeah, he gets to the lane and has a funky with left hand. That's what I've heard. But fast. Oh, I just got your joke. He's a fast driver, not just to the bucket, but on 465 or 65 south, whatever it was. So fast you can't hear this. So fast you can't hear the sirens or see the lights by him. That's funny. That maybe he can use that to his marketing advantage later. But like, such a weird year so far. But I'm intrigued by some of these players and their development and see where it goes, because to me, this is, look, could we get healthy and hot and get a player and go deep in the playoffs? Maybe, but probably not, right? Like, to me, this is all about, and I said this to you earlier, this is either way we win type of thing. Yeah. Like, we either somehow become the darling of the NBA again, which we were last year as well, and we make a Cinderella run again. Very unlikely, but if that happens, we win, right? That's an amazing story for us. Or we just really, stink this year. We give ourselves a chance for a lottery pick, and we win there as well, because it's a very strong draft coming up next year. So either way, I think this is a reset year. It's also a developmental year. It's also an evaluation year, which I think is much needed with all the players we have with Walker and Mathurin and all these young guys on our team, Furphy, to see what do we actually have and who do we actually want to commit to. And I'll say this before his injury, boy, oh boy, Mathurin looked the best he's ever looked, man.
Yeah.
I mean, even defensively, distributing. I'm thinking about that one play where he was on a heater and I was like, okay, here we go. Mathurin hero ball. And he made that beautiful pass to, was it Shepard or Nesmith, with somebody who was wide open for a three. And I was like, that is a Benn Mathurin I am not used to seeing.
Yeah.
And defensively, he was playing tough, much better. I was like, this guy is about to break out. And of course, he gets injured. So curious to see how he continues his development when he comes back. But such a strange year.
Yeah, I mean, and I think with Mathurin, I expected all of this to kind of be the case, knowing that he had a big opportunity and it's a contract year for him. Like, he's going to do everything that he can to solidify himself as a starter in the league and separate himself from the rest of this group, because, I mean, nobody else on this team in that backcourt can do what he does. Like, even with Tyrese healthy, you could probably say the same thing. Like, nobody can score like he does in the ways that he does it. And it's like, it's such a special thing to have. I know Zach Lowe has compared him as like a bull in the china shop with the Pacers and how they want to play. And I've already had people asking me like, okay, we can't get rid of Mathurin. Now, what are we going to do? It's like, look, I don't know how they're going to keep Mathurin and pay everybody else, because it's going to be really difficult. And if you come back fully healthy next year and you start Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard with Tyrese, that means Mathurin's coming off the bench. And is he going to like that? I don't necessarily think so. So that is something you just kind of have to keep in mind. And that's why I think come the trade deadline, depending on where the Pacers are at and how well he's playing, something could happen potentially. I'm not saying that's what I'm wanting to happen. I'm not trying to manifest a Mathurin trade, even though I know people have probably thought that in previous seasons of me podcasting about Mathurin. I've actually kind of come to, I'm weird saying this, I kind of adore the way he plays. I look forward to watching what he's going to do. He's so fascinating to me as a player, and what he did in the playoffs and the finals, like you'll have a hard time replacing that, a guy coming off your bench and putting up 20-something points in 20-something minutes. So it's like, he is an efficient scorer that can do a lot of different things, but it is going to get crowded at some point on the payroll, and they still don't have an answer at center.
Okay, so I know that we're way in the future now.
Yes.
So, like, are you sure what you said is true about Carlisle keeping Nesmith as a starter? If Benn Mathurin has a borderline all-star year, which, by the way, if he keeps this like 30-point a game, which I don't know if he could sustain that. He could, though. That's the kind of player he is. And he's serviceable on defense, and he's getting 10 rebounds, every other game. If you look at Nesmith's extension, it's a 2-year extension. It's not all world money.
No.
And Nesmith seems like a guy, he definitely is, just like any professional athlete, he has an ego. But I also can see Nesmith being a guy that's like, I'll be the sixth man. I'll come off the bench. What do you think about that? I'm not so sure. I'm not so certain that Mathurin would be the guy that would be the guy that they would trade at deadline. And I love Nesmith. I have the only Pacers jersey I have right now is a Nesmith jersey, and I was so excited to see the extension on him. But like, are we sure? Are we sure he's the guy that because Nesmith is limited in what he does, right? He's a 3-and-D guy at the end of the day, right? He's a great three. He's a superior 3-and-D guy, right? Relative to the rest of the. But Mathurin, if he develops his defense like I've seen him develop it, especially this year. He was a great defensive player in college. So, he has that ability in him.
Yeah.
But Mathurin is a whenever guy on the court. Are we sure we want to stick with Nesmith as the starter there? I don't know.
It's a good question, and I think the reason why it's easy to fall back on that is because of the playoff success they've had with that starting five, right? With Nesmith and Nembhard both being out there as those two defensive dogs. And Mathurin has not been a high-level defender, and one thing that he still does that drives me absolutely crazy is when he gets screened, he gives up. He doesn't fight through screens. He doesn't get skinny. And if he could figure that out, I think I would be more intrigued about that.
Or he goes under screens. I see him do that a lot too.
Yeah. And he's willing, like he's guarding like Shea, right? And then all of a sudden he gets screened by Hartenstein. He's immediately, okay, Tony Bradley, you get one-on-one on an island with Shea. Or, he doesn't care who the center is that's guarding the center that sets the screen on him. He just gives it up and switches. It's like you got to be better about fighting over, that's where I think Nesmith makes a lot of sense because he's one that will get skinny and fight over. And then you also have to realize this is all about Tyrese Haliburton and who fits the best with him. And there has been a little bit of that, inability to
alpha thing going on. I get it. Yeah.
And it's just like, I just kind of wonder, like,
but the problem,
even if Mathurin is promised a starting spot, and he comes back to the Pacers, what if they get off to a 10-15 start or a 10-17 start like they did a couple of years ago? They're like, oh, we got to make that change. All right, Mathurin, you're back to the bench. Nesmith, you're starting. It's worked for us again. Now Mathurin's unhappy, and you got to deal with that. I mean, I know this is way in the future, like we said.
Way in the future. But that's what this year's all about, right? Like this year is all about.
You can't tell without Haliburton on the court. That's my whole thing. It's like Mathurin might look like the best player in the backcourt for this team, but they're not going to play Haliburton basketball. And that to me is where it's like
that's a good point. But like, I also think like the example I gave on that play where Mathurin, he could have taken the ball to the rim, and like how many highlights do we see of him? I don't know. Do you remember? You might be too young of this, but Reggie Miller. Reggie was on an episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Have you ever heard of this?
I've seen Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I'm not sure if I remember the Reggie episode.
All right, so Reggie Miller was in an episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and I won't bore you, but basically the premise of the show was that Mr. Cooper went to high school. He played basketball on the same team as Reggie Miller in high school. He was on his high school basketball team, and he has a recollection back in the day of Reggie. It was like the state finals or something like that. And Reggie got like quadruple teamed, or like all five of the people on the other team came and guarded Reggie with like 10 seconds left in the game. And Cooper was wide open underneath the basket for the game winner, and Reggie shot the three instead and made it. And he was the hero. And Mr. Cooper was upset about that the whole day. Well, anyways, Reggie comes back to see him. Reggie's like, no, that's not what happened at all. They were double teaming you, and I had to take the shot. Well, then they do like a game again where they're playing at their older age, and Reggie does the same thing where he gets quadruple teamed. That's Mathurin to me, dude. He's like, I've seen so many highlights of him where he'll be on a fast break and literally three people are guarding him. There's two guys open at the basket. He's just, I'm gonna take the ball and I'm gonna score. I'm seeing a little bit more distribution from him this year. I'm seeing a little bit more selfless play, and so I wonder if that's true. And I don't know. He's just a guy that, like, to your point, if we're able to trade for him and get, let's say we're able to trade with a team that for sure is going to be a lottery pick team, very high lottery pick team. We get a number one for him. Number one, like a lottery, not a lottery protector, but like the actual lottery pick, which I don't even know if that's possible. Yeah, okay, make the trade for that, because especially in this draft, let's go get it. But like apart from that, like what? Too. I don't know.
Well, one other thing that we haven't even brought up is like, what if this team is bad? What if they do win the lottery or something like that?
Yeah.
Go out and get Darren Peterson. Is there going to be room for Mathurin and Darren Peterson and Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith? Like,
I mean, that's where someone's definitely got to go.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand, like, I think with the Pacers, it's always been about being cost effective and who fits the system the best. Like that's how I've always viewed it, in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong, but if Mathurin's kind of wanting the Kuminga money, where he's wanting like 30 plus million a year, I just don't know if the Pacers will give it to him. I mean, they've been known to be pretty stingy with guys besides max players.
If Mathurin plays the way he's been playing early, he deserves more than Kuminga. I mean, the dude's playing at, he's better than Kuminga. So it's like, you make a great point, and I think all of those points are made, but my, oh my, if you let Benn Mathurin walk for like a paperclip, going back to the Nesmith meme, like that could be one of those like what if things we're talking about in 10 or 15 years that like the Pacers have got to be careful or make sure they get some equal value for him if that's the case.
That is what I think they'll probably want to do, in my opinion, is turn Mathurin into something that maybe fits more. But I will say this.
What about Utah?
That's the double
Kessler
trade with
now that would feel good to me because that makes sense. But I mean, I'd hate to lose Mathurin, but if you get a guy like Kessler who is picture perfect for the Halliburton squad, and he is the Halliburton Siakam, that the system we ran last year, that is a monster upgrade for Miles. Let's go. I giddy up. I like it, but like I don't know. It has to be something like that.
It depends on what Utah wants to, obviously, right? Because they've got Ace Bailey they just drafted. They've got Walker Kessler. If they win the lottery, they get Darren Peterson at the point guard. Like maybe they're like, wow, we have a future here with Darren Peterson, Benn Mathurin, or maybe they get I always forget how to say his last name, AJ DeBansa. Maybe that's
yeah.
Because he's from a Utah high school. So if
BYU,
if they go out and get him and play like a power forward, now they've kind of got like this young core growing. They don't have a center, necessarily, but they can maybe figure that one out. I don't really know. I think the Pacers would probably prefer to trade Mathurin West as well. Another name that could be interesting. I don't think he's at the same level as a Kessler, as a Donovan Clingan out there.
Yeah.
Only if they feel like Yang Hansen is kind of like a guy they want to build around their draft pick from this year. The Asian Jokic is what they call him, I think. So, or Chinese Jokic. But I'm just fascinated to see what they do. I like I said, I'm starting to adore Mathurin's game. And if he is better than Nesmith, and Nesmith is willing to come off the bench, then that's probably your best case scenario, but you still got to find a center. And I think Nesmith is still only making $11 million next year too. So it's like his contract extension doesn't kick in for 2 more seasons, which I think is a 27, 28, 28, 29 is when those two $20 million extensions kick in. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But I'm curious to see what they do. I think they know they have to address it. You're talking about Isaiah Jackson playing more like Mitchell Robinson. I mean, if you go back and look at last year's center depth for the Knicks, you could probably make the case Isaiah Jackson's closer to Precious Achiuwa than he is Mitchell.
Oh, that's from a talent standpoint. I was talking about like the role he plays.
Oh, I understand what you were saying. I'm just saying if you're looking at where they're at though, like in talent.
Oh, for sure. Oh, like, talent wise,
if he could be even close to Mitchell Robinson, I would be excited. Like he just
the talent wise is nowhere close to Mitchell Robinson and what he does. Mitchell Robinson is a physical specimen. I'm just saying like ideally you'd want him to be that energy bunny at the 5 off the bench, like he was playing 2 years ago, like playing really well, or 2-3 years ago when he was playing really well. So, a lot of question marks, and you're right, a log jam at the guard position. And then the other thing you got to think of is like how much longer will TJ be playing at the level he's playing?
Yeah.
And you got to think about getting ball handlers in there. I know we got Cam Jones, but like, what do we expect from him? Could a guy like Talon Peterson develop into a guy like that? Probably not, but he's an interesting guy. Or going full circle, Mac McClung. Could he be the next TJ McConnell?
Let's go. Mac McClung makes a roster. No, I wouldn't be surprised if Quentin Jackson eventually gets that spot.
Quentin is he would be the most likely guy on our team right now. Yes.
He's a dog. And he loves the system and he just knows how to play in it. He's not really a natural one, which is why I think it's taken some time for him to kind of get the trust that they want to give him, because he is a score first guy. Like that's the thing. A lot of these guards they have that are undersized, they are score first guards. They don't really have like those. This is why I think they dropped the ball not drafting Ryan Nembhard. Like That would have been
It's so dumb not to draft him. I don't know what they intel there. They must really love Cam. They must really love. I mean,
but
I don't
Cam's
know.
more of a 2 to me than he was a 1. It's the
Yeah,
same thing.
that's
It's
true.
the same thing. Like he only played 1 last year because Tyler Kolek went to the draft, right? So it's like, okay.
And he didn't have as strong of a season.
Yeah. And that's
Statistically.
exactly why. So
Yeah.
he's more of a guy that needs setup than being a setup guy, but it's still someone that can run it if he needs to. But still, like, I don't know. There's a lot of hodgepodge there, and like Jarris Walker's kind of in that mix too for the wing spot. Like
Jarris is an interesting guy this year. I was kind of down on him in preseason. I don't know what was going on. I think he was dealing with some stuff, but I really liked what I saw from him early in the first 3 games.
Last game was bad. I felt like the OKC game was
the
bad.
last game. The OKC. That's Jarris, man. He's up and down. Like it's the same Mathurin. It's the same kind of Mathurin disease. Like he'll be spectacular one game and not. Like Jarris has got to develop his inside game, his penetration game. He's just like he's kind of developed into this like decent defender with flashes of great defensive moments, and then just like these crazy rainbow threes that he's a great 3-point shooter when he's shooting them well. But like, what else do you have? And like in that OKC game, I saw him get into the basket a little bit more. I saw him make some great passes. He seemed to be in the flow of the offense a lot better than what I've ever seen him do. And then he doesn't do it again. Like he's kind of an interesting guy to me. Like he's another guy that like what's going to happen with him this year is going to be very intriguing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I said at the beginning of the season and some of the offseason, like this year, I think is going to determine what the future of his, tenure is here with the Pacers. Like if he doesn't take this opportunity and run with it, then he's more than likely not going to get re-signed, and they'll probably look to trade him as well. And that could be a big trade package if they're going after a bigger name center that could potentially become available. But who knows at that point? I think at this point, the center position all across the league, like it seems like there's a lot of talent that's not there, and like a lot of people searching for it, and that's why the trade is going to be hard to make. Trying to find that right person. I think Kessler's like the number one guy that everybody talks about in terms of that. I've mentioned Bam quite a bit. I don't think Davis makes a lot of sense because he's getting older. He's slowed down a little bit. Is there somebody you like?
I'm going to throw out a name that you're going to laugh at as soon as I say it.
Okay.
What about bringing back Domantas Sabonis?
I don't think he fits the system. That's the problem.
I told you you'd laugh. I actually think he would. Now that Miles is gone, I know he's not as good of an outside shooter, but he's not terrible now.
He'd be good at getting guys open with screening and passing.
That's right. Like the pick and roll game would be great.
Would he accept that role?
I mean, at this point in his career, would you rather play for a perennial contender or the Sacramento Kings?
Fair.
Depends on what you care about.
His defense is so sus, though.
I know, but like so was Miles. Except for Miles was a good shot blocker, but his defense outside of shot blocking was sus. Yeah, and so, like, I don't think
quite a bit. Yeah,
I just don't. That's true. I'm not saying Sabonis is the perfect fit. Give me Kessler all day, every day.
Yeah.
There's other guys out there, and like, I'd be curious to know who's in like the collegiate pipeline too that we can snag. That would be like maybe a guy, and I'm not up on all the college guys, but a guy that you can snag like at the mid or low one. That's like he's not a 5-tool guy, but he's like a 1 or 2 tool guy that fits our system really well. You know what I mean? I wonder if there's a guy out there that fits that mold.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at the Tankathon big board, and it looks like I'm going to butcher his last name probably. I'm not going to say it right. It's either Sinak or Kanak. It's Chris Sinak Jr. from Houston. He is a 6'10" power forward center. We know they do have some ties there with Kelvin Sampson in Houston and Jarris obviously being there. Other than that, center-wise, you have to kind of go all the way down to this is around pick 21, where they have this guy, Patrick Ngongba for the Duke Blue Devils. And then that is pretty much all your center depth that they have listed here. 2 centers in the top 30. So that's why it feels like there's a lot of guard wings in this draft. That's why it's just kind of intriguing to me. Like, what can they go out and do? I think it's going to be more difficult than maybe people realize, and it might take quite a bit. But like, I could see the Jazz asking for Mathurin plus a pick for Kessler, and I know fans would hate that.
Would you do that?
If you're the Pacers,
are you talking? Okay, let's say we have my prediction this year is we're going to be like a fringe play-in team. I don't think we're going to be super bad this year unless like our best play, like Siakam gets like a season-ending injury or Nembhard doesn't play half the season or something like that happens. We're going to be like on the fringe of the playoffs, right? That's just, it is what it is. But like, so let's say we come in at that and we say, okay, we'll give you this year's first and Mathurin for Kessler and maybe another player, like a whatever throwaway player. No, I meant a player from them.
I see. Okay.
Like you build up the value of Mathurin to the point where it's like, okay, he's playing at a borderline all-star level. We'll give you a 1 in Mathurin, but you got to give us Kessler and some other developmental guy, or maybe even a future pick of some sort. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how the math works. I know there's actuarials on that, but like, I don't know. I might do that. If you feel,
it's more of like a necessity of what you need on your roster, where it's like you need someone like Mathurin, but you need a center that's capable of starting every night and giving you continuity and consistency, where you're not getting that with who you currently have on the roster. So, I mean, they could go cheap if Vooch is a free agent next year, sign him to like a veteran deal, but like kind of similar to Sabonis, like he's a better 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Not a great defender, but like good rebounder. So like, could that make some sense as a stopgap guy? Like, not that I love it, but it's better than what they have now by a long shot. And I maybe underestimated that when we did our center rankings. I was just kind of out on Vooch. I had him so low in terms of like.
I mean, honestly, I would take Vooch over anything we've got now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He's got the experience and the muscle. So
I was so wrong when I did our center power rankings. I had Vooch at like 13, and I had Huff and them above him.
Yeah.
I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, but also can Vooch run 15 miles a night as well on our offense?
That's true. I felt like he's kind of like, he had a great 3-point shooting year last year.
Yeah.
He thought he was getting traded, and then he didn't get traded. So he was like, are you kidding me? I got to stay in Chicago even more.
Don't get me wrong. I would take Vooch right now. I think that would be, I actually think that's actually not a terrible idea for like, like a stopgap, or even like just like a plan B for the next couple years. Like that's not a bad idea actually.
Yeah.
And Chicago, I'm sure Chicago's open for business. So
yeah, they're off to a hot start. So you know how those hot starts are.
But once again, like there's nothing.
The first
it's weird transitional. I know we're almost done here, but weird transitional year. But like, it's such the NBA, especially the East, is such a huge question mark. I think Cleveland's there, and like unless they just totally regress or someone gets hurt, it's like they're probably going to be at the top again. And not hopefully, but they probably learned their lessons from last year, and like they're going to figure out a way. They're going to be highly motivated this year. They're going to be a top team. That's a given. But like, what about Philadelphia? What do you think's going to happen with them? Boston off to a bad start, but they still have dogs on their team. You expect them to be there. And then you've got these up-and-comers like Detroit and Orlando, and even like Toronto could be a dark horse this year. It's such an interesting year in the East. And it's like, okay, so then what happens after everything shakes out the end of this year? How do we do where do we go from here? I think it's a choose your own adventure book that has about 15 different options there. So
yeah. There are a lot of different avenues they could go, but if they don't try to go after Walker Kessler, I think that'd be a big mistake. At this point, when you're looking at the landscape of the NBA, it's like, who is there else to go after?
It's picture perfect, man. I mean, like,
that's why it's worth it to like overpay for him. And I know that Utah will probably demand that, but I don't know, unless Walker Kessler, I'm not signing with you. But we've already seen Danny Ainge do that before with the Pacers.
Well, that's the benefit of having an embarrassment of riches at a particular position. Like, I would hate to lose Mathurin, but if we got a Kessler in return, even packaging like a Mathurin and like a Shepherd or something like that, like as much as I'd hate to see those guys leave, we've got the backfills for them. Now, once again, it's to be seen whether or not we can find a guy like Mathurin who could create his own offense. Maybe that's what they're thinking Cam Jones could be, because that's the kind of player he is. Maybe that was their vision with that. But I think that's the one that I would not feel bad about doing at all. And the fact it's in the West, like go out there and play. That'd be great.
That's the key. And I think if you're the Pacers, you might even be willing to consider parting ways with Jarris Walker at this point.
I don't disagree with that.
You know what I mean? Like, it depends on who they can get back in return. With Utah, like, they have a weird roster. Like, if you can get Walker Kessler, and then, I mean, Filipowski has been playable for them as well. Like, has had some good moments. They've got Nurkic as well. Kevin Love's currently on the roster. But, like, for example, like Georges Niang, he's on their roster. I don't know if his contract is an expiring contract or not, but we know he's really good friends with Tyrese Haliburton. Both went to Iowa State. Like, could you do like a Mathurin Walker for Georges Niang and Walker Kessler trade, something like that?
Pacers legend Georges Niang.
People in the YouTube comments probably right now are like, "What are these guys talking about? There's no way you could trade 2 lottery picks for that." But I'm just telling you,
getting Kessler and Niang would, like, Niang as a role player off our bench, that would be killer. I think. I think that would be a system. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that trade at all. He'd be more valuable than Walker is to us right now. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, kind of have him out there with Toppin. They kind of maybe seem a little bit redundant, but I think that's a really good floor spacing. McConnell, Shepard. Maybe Furphy gets next there.
Mac McClung. I just keep coming back to
Mac McClung.
I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Furphy, man. When he gets healthy, I think he's gonna. I responded to your tweet. I do think once he gets healthy and gets in the rotation, he's gonna. I think he's got the. Oh man, I really hope he. And then if he's good enough, then do you feel way better about getting rid of Jarris?
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's the way they're going anyway. Hate to say it like that, but
I agree. I think that
his level of inconsistency to me in year 3 is something just to monitor all year long. If he gets better, it's going to make a difference. But if it doesn't get any better than what it is right now, and it kind of just stays the same, that's tough. That's going to be a tough contract to extend right there. So,
and there's going to be a team. There's going to be a team that sees his upside.
Yep.
And say, let's go for it. Let's try it. And sometimes a change of scenery is all you need, and you can, like, there's something to that. So, all right, you talked me into it. Let's get rid of Mathurin. Let's get rid of Walker. Let's go get.
I'm trying to get rid of him. Only for Kessler, if that's who they can get. I know that I know someone's like, didn't you give Facci a hard time for saying Kessler was his number 1 target a couple of years ago or earlier this year? And I'm like, maybe I did, but I was thinking bigger, like Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, if they go out and get one of those guys,
I'm not so sure I would want Bam or Jaren Jackson over Kessler. Just for not saying that their talent. He's more talented than those two, but the fit on this team. It's like hand and glove. I mean, of course, I'd love Bam or Jaren. Bring Jaren back home, but well, remember that the glove didn't fit on that one.
I know.
So, but anyways,
all right. Well, we've got enough of high police chase speeds jokes going on today. So
a lot of high speed chase stuff. Yeah.
All right, Pacer Nation. Well, Mac McClung is an Indiana Pacer. James Wiseman is no longer on the Pacers, and the Pacers are back in action Wednesday night against the Dallas Mavericks. I will be back tomorrow with another episode, so you guys stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun one. We're bringing on Chris Taylor. You might be asking, who is Chris Taylor? Well, he is actually the general manager of the Noblesville Boom, and they just started their training camp for the Boom on Monday afternoon or Monday evening around 5:30. They just had their draft over the weekend, so we're going to get some insight on what we can expect from the Noblesville Boom this year. And then Chris, obviously being a GM for the last couple of years, has a good idea of what these two-way players have looked like. So get his perspective on Mac McClung, what he's seen him do against the Mad Ants in previous years. And then, of course, see what Quentin Jackson and Ray J and Johnny Furphy and even Jarris and those guys that have been in his system a little bit and see how they've developed over time. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy that. But Brett, where can people find you at on social media? And I want to thank you again for coming on.
Always, Alex. I really appreciate the opportunity. Find me, Brett on Stage on X. Follow me. I sometimes tweet a lot and sometimes don't.
You call it X? That? You call it X?
I see. I don't know what the cool kids are calling it these days. I pull it up on my phone. It says X, so I call it X. But let's we still going old school. Kids still calling it Twitter.
I call it Twitter. I can't call it X.
All right. I like Twitter. I actually dig it. I actually like Twitter.
Twitter's way cooler than X. X is so stupid.
Way better. X is stupid. It's brutalism. We can go into that another time, but like,
Are you on TikTok?
everything about it. I'm not a TikTok guy. I'm 42. I feel like it's just not
perfect time to be
appropriate
on
for a
TikTok.
42. I feel like it's such a boomer saying that, but I was on TikTok for a minute, and it was like a lot of like 6'7" stuff and things that my kids say that I'm like.
There?
I'm sure she is. My sister's on everything, so that doesn't surprise me at all. But
Yeah, she's following setting the pace on TikTok. I said, "Where's Brett at? Where's Brett on stage?" I feel like TikTok was made for you.
I know I should get on there and do some stuff, but I don't know. I just it feels funny being on there. Plus, I feel so distracted with all the other social media stuff I'm on as well. But but anyways, yeah. Brett on stage, follow me. Let's have a conversation.
All right.
Talking Pacers and Colts. Go Colts, by the way, for those that cross over.
There we go. Crossover 7-1, and if you cross over even more, Indiana Hoosiers undefeated. So
Indiana Hoosiers, exactly same.
Football.
What a time to live in the state of Indiana if you're a sports fan.
Yeah, just don't drink the water because people are getting injured left and right. So even if you're playing against Indiana, you're going to get hurt. Anthony Edwards out for 2 weeks. So just unfortunate there. But Pacer Nation, thanks so much for stopping by and listening to today's episode. If you like this episode on YouTube, that'll help us out a lot. And subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on the audio platform, please leave us a nice 5-star rating and review. And let us know what you think in the comment section below. And until next time, talk soon.